What is up, everybody? No Huddle Football family on this Monday. And I want to tell you about a guest that I'm bringing on. This has been going on for a while because I was supposed to interview him maybe a few months ago. It's going back some time, but I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to really get him. I said, I'm going to have to make this work during the day. Well, everybody knows I usually do evening interviews. But again, I want to tell my guests thank you for doing this. And I'm going to let him introduce himself to you all, No Huddle Football family. So it's on you, Mike.
All right. My name is Mike Patton. I am the host, producer of the Touring the AFC South podcast, where I talk about the Titans, Jaguars, Colts, and let's see, goodness gracious, now I'm forgetting names: Titans, Texans, Jaguars, and Colts. There we go.
Yeah.
And do it a couple times a week, and basically give you the ins and outs of either what I think is going on or what my guests may know a little bit more in terms of insight about each and every team in the division.
All right. Well, I appreciate it here. I'm going to get right into a burning question that our audiences have definitely been asking about. And I actually made a video on, but I want to hear your insight. The rivalry between the Titans and the Texans has been as hot as it's been ever. And a lot of it has to do with the naming rights and the jerseys of the Houston Oilers. I want to get your insight on what you feel like is going on between the two cities, Houston and Nashville, or is it more so between the owners of the two franchises?
Well, honestly, I don't necessarily say the owners. It's one owner, and that'd be the Adams family, basically. Essentially, with how they left Houston, that rubbed people the wrong way. Coming to an agreement with Nashville while still having 2 years left in Houston. So that rubbed them the wrong way. Then they left. And of course, now the biggest thing is talking about the uniforms. And they belong to this city and that city and the other. Well, technically, they still belong to the Titans and the Titans organization. People are, Texans fans are talking about, hey, well, you should give it back to Houston and things like that. But that doesn't make business sense. It makes sentimental sense, but it doesn't make business sense. If you look at maybe Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens, I know it was a little bit different scenario, but legally, the city owned the name, the colors, the uniform, all those things. Houston never really went to court for any of those things. They went to court with Bud Adams, and of course he had to, break the lease and kind of agree with them or some kind of agreement there. But they never had any agreement about the uniforms, the colors, or the name of the team. If they would have done that, then I think the Oilers name would have stayed in Houston. But it didn't happen. Now you're trying to go after the fact, trying to go to do it, and no, the Titans organization already sees money and see a property that actually can make money for them. So no, I don't think that will happen.
Okay, great answer here. And I'm going to channel in on something else that you made because you kind of went outside of it, which I'm glad you did with the Cleveland Browns and their situation. But I'm going to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Indianapolis Colts used to be the Baltimore Colts. I never lived in Baltimore. I never lived in Indy, but they left the city of Baltimore in the middle of the night. Now you can go online and look at those tractor trailers pulling out of Baltimore heading to Indianapolis, but I don't hear the same type of barking from Baltimore. At least that was in the early 80s, and then the Indianapolis Colts becoming the Indianapolis Colts. I don't hear the same thing. So what do you think is the difference between what Houston is feeling and what Baltimore felt back in the early 80s?
I think it's a little bit more of the disdain for the owner. If you look at the history between Bud Adams and Houston, of course, he was not very happy within the late 80s and the early 90s because he was talking about, upgrades for the stadium and things like that. The city of Houston then upgraded the stadium. They paid a pretty good chunk of change to upgrade the stadium, add 10,000 more seats because they were the smallest stadium in the NFL at that time in terms of only holding 50,000 fans. So they did that, and then next thing you know, he comes back around and says, hey, I need a new stadium, and I'm only going to pay 25% of it. Now, the mayor agreed to it at first and then didn't see it because, of course, they were going through the oil crisis, things like that at that point in time. So, I think this more comes down to a disdain for Bud Adams and his way of doing business and how he did business, I think that adds fuel to the fire of why things are the way they are. There's so much bad blood between the Titans and the Texans and their fans and all kind of different things and all kind of different variations of the story and how it happened.
Okay, well, great answer. That's great points, and I want people. I'm glad to have you on here because I've watched a lot of your videos, your podcasts, and you're very insightful on so many different avenues just around the AFC South with so many different topics. So I'm glad you're here and answering these questions the way you're doing. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem.
Okay. Next question. Let's go down to Jacksonville. And we're talking about the Jags, and it looks like they're doing a couple of things too. They're building a new stadium, and they're also having some problems that's on their front office with the, I guess maybe one of the people who was over the money. So I want you to give an explanation on what's going on in Jacksonville with that franchise.
Well, Jacksonville and the owner Khan down there, he actually is trying to give more money towards the city of Jacksonville while developing a few things and also developing potentially a new stadium or just adding on to the stadium they currently have, whether it be like a park and new
Mm,
workout facilities, things like that. So that's what's going on when it comes to that. Now, the guy in the front office, he was just blowing money and using the company to do it, and he got
okay.
caught. And it was
Yeah.
like I think it was like millions of dollars that he was using. And eventually he got caught. It wasn't anything that in terms of the organization was involved. It was just him solo acting, doing whatever he was doing and blowing money. And then of course you get deeper and deeper into it and you get more addicted to it. You're gonna blow more money doing it. So that's what happened there. Unfortunate state of events that happened with that organization because Jacksonville, for better or for worse, a lot of times has been looked down upon in this division. So, that doesn't help them look any better.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So let's get into the Jags quarterback here. Trevor Lawrence, the number one overall pick, but he hasn't lived up to the bill to get him to the promised land, at least to a Super Bowl as of yet. Now we did see a few receivers, obviously Calvin Ridley depart, but do you think with what they've done in the offseason and what they picked up in free agency and in the draft, all together can help them get back to that particular where they want to go, and that's at least getting to the AFC Championship this year.
Uh, I would say yes and no. Uh,
Mm,
yes, because defensively they did add some pieces. I still don't like the cornerback scenario there. That's just me.
mm,
But up front with Eric Armstead, that helped them against the run. Because in the past, they had been a donut defense, in my opinion, which basically, let me explain that to you. A defense that was solid on the outside, but in the middle had nothing. So
mm,
that was basically what their defense was for a while. Now you add Eric Armstead, a little tougher inside. You got Olaquan at linebacker. You're stronger up the middle. But offensively, I'm not sure. It's going to be on Trevor Lawrence a little bit more offensively to kind of carry a little bit of things, kind of make things happen. You've got a young wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., which he's got ability. I just want to see him be able to get off of press coverage, things like that. That's what I'm interested in seeing on him. He definitely's got the speed and he's shifty for a man that's 6'3", which that's a
mm.
very good combination. Shifty, fast, got good hands. Just I want to see the routes and then the intermediate routes. He kind of rounds those a little bit, which I think you can't do that in the NFL. That's going to be an interception. DB's going to undercut that. As far as Christian Kirk, I mean, him coming back from core surgery, that'll be interesting. And then you got Gabe Davis, or like to call him Mr. Inconsistent, because in Buffalo he was great one moment, and the next moment you can't find him on the field. They can get consistency out of him, a little bit out of Brian Thomas Jr. as he comes along, and then Christian Kirk, they'll be good to go. We know Evan Ingram is going to be the man when it comes to looking, for Trevor Lawrence, who he's going to look at for a security blanket. So it's just going to be just interesting that timing for the other two pieces, and then potentially can do some things. But I honestly can't even say they'll win the division this year, or I honestly don't know what to make of them. It's going to be heavily on Trevor Lawrence in some senses, being that he's going into a contract season, pretty much.
Mm. Yeah, I know that Trevor Lawrence has got a lot of weight on his shoulder because the contract is going to be there or it's not going to be there. We know in the NFL they'll move on from you if they don't believe in you. They're not going to give you a whole lot of money to sit there and just be an average quarterback. They want you to be definitely above average, and they want to see some big playoff wins. So we both know that.
Right, right. And just to me, he's got to be more consistent. I understand that, sometimes there were tip passes and all those different things. I totally get that. But in
Hmm.
the end, you still have to value the football. All of those are not tip passes. All of those are not, or receiver made a mistake or this, that, and other things like that. So, and soon enough, it's going to be on you to make the
Yeah.
decision on you because the mistake happened. It's going to be on you to clean it up. And so that's where we are with Trevor Lawrence. And honestly, looking at the division and the quarterbacks, it's not crazy to think that maybe 2 to 3 years he could potentially be the worst quarterback in the division. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying he's going to be horrible, but what I'm saying is the other quarterbacks could end up potentially.
All right. So since you're talking about quarterbacks and potential, we're going to go to Indy and we're going to talk about their quarterback, which is Anthony Richardson. And I want to know what do you feel like year two? What should we expect from him coming off the injury they had, the surgery they had, and the team they got around them?
Well, you should expect more learning, of course. He did miss most of his rookie season, but you'll definitely probably see more, a little bit more of him sliding, protecting himself. Potentially, you'll see that. Hopefully, you'll see that because of what has happened to him in his rookie season. But as far as the offense, you'll see more than likely, depending on the tight ends, because the Shane Steichen offense, tight ends are definitely somebody to look for. Of course, Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be a security blanket, but also the running game with Jonathan Taylor. I do expect them to lean on the running game with Jonathan Taylor, kind of use him in the similar mold as I kind of used, I'm sorry, Anthony Richardson in the similar mold as a Jalen Hurts, hand the football off, taking those deep shots, things like that, as well to kind of protect him, one, from those hits, and secondly, just to kind of ease him into the different intricacies of that offense, being that he missed the entire first year. So that's what I kind of expecting, more maturation and growth, and hopefully staying healthy and learning from the past in terms of getting down and sliding or running out of bounds instead of taking on the hit like you're a linebacker.
Okay. All right. What do you think about Indianapolis's third jersey? We're going to switch it up here a little bit. Those black jerseys they came out with. Like them, love them, or hate them.
I didn't quite like them. I just was, I, I tried to like them. I do like black jerseys. I'm all about any team having an alternate black jersey. I love it, but it
Hmm.
just the material was made out of kind of threw me off. It looked like a T-shirt with numbers, man, a little bit, and I was like, I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, usually if you go to black jersey, it's gonna be a jersey, not a kind of
Yeah.
T-shirt material. It just nah, I just wasn't. I tried, but I just wasn't feeling it.
I felt like they looked like Duke Blue Devil pajamas to me. I didn't like it at all. I wasn't feeling it. All right, so let's go to H Town. And I want to talk a little bit about their particular team, the things that they did uh, in free agency. I'm gonna let you chime in about that, but also the things that they have lost. And I felt like they lost a really good player going to Minnesota, I believe. I
Yeah,
think it was
Jonathan Bernard.
yes. I actually think they did not upgrade there particularly, but that's my opinion. I want to know your opinion on the moves that they made down there at H Town.
Well, actually, I will probably agree to disagree with you,
Mm.
but I do think they upgraded with Daniil Hunter, bringing him home at a discount price. You got 2 years out of him. He's getting 48 million guaranteed when he could have got more in Atlanta or somewhere else, but he wanted to come back and play close to home or at home, I should say. I do think, of course, in adding the Nico Autry and adding Aziz Al-Shire, you weaken the Titans. At that point in time, you weaken the Titans to add to your team. And, I do like the addition to Stephon Diggs and then making it a 1-year deal. That makes it even better because it means he's probably going to be his best behavior because he's due for a new deal. So, they definitely made some moves that I'm like, okay, cool. Add some depth to their defensive line. They're basically assembling a group of pass rushers to go along with guys that can stop the run. So that way, it's kind of resembles a little bit more of the 49ers defense that DeMeco Ryans had. And, of course, in San Francisco. The one thing I don't like about their defense that they didn't address until like the draft, cornerback. I know Steven Nelson played well for them last year, and I liked his game. They didn't bring him back. They chose to bring in 2 first-round talents that haven't panned out in 2 different teams. One is Jeff Okudah, played for Detroit, Atlanta, now playing in Houston. The other is C.J. Henderson, played for the Jacksonville Jaguars, went to the Carolina Panthers, and is now with the Houston Texans. And to me, those are long shots right there. They're both on 1-year deals. So they're both trying to make it in their career and establish themselves, but they haven't been able to establish themselves over their careers so far. So to me, that's taking some shots. And then you bring in the kid from Georgia. I cannot remember his name right now. Give me 1 second. His name is Kamari Lassiter. Kamari Lassiter. I think Kamari Lassiter actually has the chance to start over those 2, to be honest. But I just don't think they addressed their cornerback position well enough outside of course, their star at corner. But to me, they could have done better at that position. But I think they're hoping is that the defensive line is able to get pressure with Will Anderson, Daniel Hunter, Nico Autry, and all those guys, and that they're able to kind of overcome that. Kind of how the 49ers overcome it in some senses with not having, 2 solid, super, super solid corners.
Okay, perfect. All right. Diggs, is he the next T.O. that's going to be hopping around? What do you think?
Well, I like Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs does run clean routes. He definitely can get open for a quarterback. And to be honest, I'm very interested to see how Josh Allen does without him because before him, we know who Josh Allen was. We saw what he was when Stephon Diggs got there, and now to see if he maybe learned some things or he reverts back to the guy before Stephon Diggs. But going back to the Texans, I mean, I think he is definitely a guy that is wants to win at all costs, but he wants to be part of that winning as well. So it's going to be just interesting the balancing act between Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell, and of course Dalton Schultz. So I think Dalton Schultz may get the short end of the stick, and the other 3 guys may get more receptions. It just is what it is. But we'll see what happens when it comes to Stephon Diggs because, he could have a moment. But the thing is, he doesn't really have those moments in terms of for all of our eyes to see. It's always one that has to be broke down and looked at, and, people kind of miss, and then they have to come back and say, oh, this is where he had that moment, as opposed to, him just – flying off the handle or anything like that. But, to be honest, I think this is he's 31. He's starting to get to that point where he's about ready to get his last big contract. So I think he'll be on his best behavior this year.
All right. Well, we better hope so because here's the thing. We're going to talk about C.J. Stroud a little bit here. Now, C.J. Stroud bringing in the talent of Diggs, he's got to be happy. He's got to be satisfied that looks like his receiving core has completely improved, adding another Pro Bowl caliber player. But he's got to think in the back of his head. We've all seen the playoff picture where Diggs is over there with his hands out in the snow, looking at Allen and saying, "Hey, you're not giving me the ball." He's kind of being a little detrimental to the team and the things that he said off the field about the team. So what do you think C.J. Stroud's mindset is going into year 2, bringing in such a veteran A-type personality receiver like Diggs?
Well, the thing is, he's going to get to know Diggs because that's how he does with all his receivers. I don't know if you noticed or looked around that Dalton Schultz actually, and him and Dalton Schultz hung out a lot with him getting there. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, all those guys. So he's going to get to know Stephon Diggs. And I think that's going to be a huge thing in terms of their rapport and understanding what he's seeing and who he's getting the ball to. That'll go a long way, kind of killing a little bit of that, hey, I'm open type of stuff. But, for Stephon Diggs, he's going to be Stephon Diggs. I think the funny thing about this entire thing is that so many people love Stephon Diggs when he's on your team, but when he's not on your team, everybody has a different story. Or if he's rumored to be traded, oh well, we didn't like him, or he has this type of attitude, something like that. And I'm like, okay, you can't have it both ways. You got to decide one way or the other.
Right, right. All right, so we're gonna go to a possible huge future Hall of Famer here, former Texan J.J. Watt. But it looks like he made a post and looks like he's talking about coming back out of retirement to be able to help the Texans. Do you think J.J. serious, or is this more so like a trying to do some hype for the Texans on their team currently? Do you feel like J.J. will return?
Honestly, I don't think he'll return. I don't think he kind of. Well, I'll say this: I don't think he'll return simply because you look at going through training camp, the bumps and bruises and things like that, and then he's got a young child at home that kind of happened around the end of his career. Do I think he goes back? No, but would it surprise me? No, because
Mm-hmm.
some people when they retire they get that itch again. Remember Chris Carter? Chris Carter was retired from the Vikings, and all of a sudden he pops up with the Miami Dolphins. So
Mm-hmm.
those things can happen. Do I expect it to happen? No. I think he stays in the CBS booth and stays calling games.
Okay, all right. I'm thinking, I'm right now thinking about 60-40. I'm that he's going to return, and the reason why is again the itch, and this team looks to be one of the better teams in the NFL on paper. And I'm thinking he might say, I want to try one more time just to see if this young kid can get, the Houston Texans to a Super Bowl. Because that's what they're talking down there now. Super Bowl with
Mhm.
the additions of the running backs, the additions of the receiver on defense, getting some veteran presence there, and kind of weakening a team we're going to talk about next. But I think JJ possibly could be making this return.
Yeah, he's smelling the championship potentially. So I totally get that that wanting to come back and things like that. But yeah, I think it sounds good until you put the pads on. Then you're like, okay, this is why I left this.
Yeah, and the Texas Heat down there, being out there in training camp is grueling, obviously.
Right,
Well,
right.
we're gonna get into another hot. We're gonna talk about some hot chicken here as we move into Nashville. Just a little fun fact: are you into hot chicken?
Yeah, definitely love hot chicken. I'm born and
What?
raised here in Nashville, so of course.
There you go. All right, born and raised. So, where was the original hot chicken place at?
Man, it's Prince's, man. That's out in off of Dickerson Road. Come on now.
From Dickinson out there, Parkwood. That's where some of my folks from. So, shout out to Prince's and all them doing the hot chicken because in Nashville now you got a lot of other places that are popping up
Right.
doing hot chicken, hot fish, hot everything. So it's something for people to, if they want to come visit Nashville, which they should, you're going to see a growing city that has done a lot for the community here, and the community looks different. I'm pretty sure if you're as old as I am, seeing Second Avenue downtown just 20 years ago has definitely
Mhm.
changed over the years. So definitely a
Yes.
spot you need to come visit if you haven't been to Nashville. No Huddle football family, come on down. And I want to talk to you about the last team in the AFC South, which is the Tennessee Titans. We're going to start with the stadium, and then we're going to move on to the field. What are your thoughts on the stadium that they're going to be building for the Titans in the city of Nashville?
Honestly, it is what it is. Of course, with the agreement that they had with the Titans that they would keep the stadium up to a certain level, and the assessment basically came back and said, okay, it's going to cost us too much to keep this at this certain level. So why not build a whole new stadium at that point? Now the stadium, let's see, it's 2026, I believe the stadium will be up. It'll be 2000, 1998, 99, I believe, is when they played the first. No, 1999 is when they played the first game in the stadium.
Mm,
So didn't quite make it 30 years, but hey, it made it somewhere. So it just the way the deal kind of shapes up too. They're giving the land back to the team, but then again, they're building like a whole community around the stadium. I think that's going to be interesting. It's going to probably be a lot of condos and things like that that people can't afford. Basically, is what it's probably going to end up being. It's going to be a
Mhm.
nice stadium, going to be a little bit smaller. It's going to be a stadium where everyone has a good seat in the stadium, which that's a plus. But the minus is it's going to be a community that really no one that your average everyday person is not going to be living in, basically.
It definitely gonna be visitors in your own city. Seem like it. That's what it looks like it's gonna
Right.
be.
Yeah,
All right,
I can see that.
let's go on the field here. We're gonna talk about Will Levis, the quarterback that they have that came out with a bang, and then he started learning the growing pains of the NFL. So year two for him, what do you think his year two is going to look like with the surrounding cast that's currently on the roster?
I think it'll be interesting just because he has more weapons than he did in his first year. The first year, you had DeAndre Hopkins, you had Chig out there at tight end, but Chig was, he dropped a few passes he shouldn't have that hit him right in his hands. Of course, he still had a solid year, but he just, he's got to be more consistent there. But now coming into this year, you have Chig at tight end. You have Hoppett, one wide receiver. You have Calvin Ridley. You may have Tyler Boyd or a Zay Jones potentially at the slot. If not, you have a Kyle Phillips or a Traylon Burks, which of course, that either is a plus or minus or kind of draws a scowl or a smile, depending upon what you think of them. Of course, the running back position is definitely different without Derrick Henry. So I think it's going to be a more pass focused offense, which is going to allow for him to make some mistakes still, but also allow for him to do a little bit more playmaking, especially with the weapons that they have and the offensive brain power that they have in holes that's come over from the Jaguars and was the passing game guy there, and in Brian Callahan and the new head coach who came over from the Bengals, being the offensive coordinator of that offense. Imagine that style type offense, but in Tennessee, it's going to be interesting just to see how Levis kind of grows things. But I will tell you, he is a very, very determined studier. He definitely studies a lot. Like Colton
Mm,
Dow, I don't know if you've heard this conversation, but Colton Dow actually, when he was talking about Will Levis, he actually was like, Will Levis doesn't really watch TV or anything. Like he was his roommate when he got for rookie camp. He was pretty much in the book the entire time. When he came back to the room, in the book. So I
mm,
totally get that, and that's so I think he's going to be that same type of guy. And he's also a guy that's a hard worker. So he couldn't really the layered pass. The layered pass you throw over the linebackers, but under the safety, he couldn't really throw that pass really, really great to start the season. But you saw him stay
mm.
out there, work on it, things like that, and eventually he got it down. So he's a guy that's going to work hard. And he's a guy that's going to actually study. So I do expect him to have growing pains, but I do expect him to just do some solid work out there and continue to grow.
Okay. Questions I have for you: will the Titans miss Derrick Henry this season?
Well, of course they're going to miss him. They're going to have some spots where they're going to miss him. The third and ones or some things like that, and wearing down teams with a big running back. They're going to miss him in those spots. But however, this new running back tandem opens up a lot of different things, and also does one
Mhm.
particular thing. It gives them the same look, but it can do a whole bunch of different things with two different backs.
Yeah.
So basically, you won't. While you knew everything that was going to happen with Derrick Henry, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But this offense, you're really not going to be able to just key in on, oh, okay, this back's in the game. We're going to run the football. They're going to do this. They're going to do that because both backs can do everything.
Okay. Perfect. So 2024 draft. I know we both watched it and we saw where Joe Alt came off the board
Mm-hmm.
at I think 5 to the Chargers. So at
Right.
7, we were sitting there thinking, oh, trade back, trade back, trade back. People in the stands, and shout out to all the people who were at the draft party at the stadium. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
were.
was there too. Yeah.
You were there? Okay. So when JC Latham's name was announced,
Mm-hmm.
tell me what you felt when you heard that pick.
Man, I like the pick. I mean, honestly, they need offensive line help. Of course, the biggest thing everyone points out is, oh, he's not a left tackle. He's not this. He's not that. But the thing that everyone seems to forget is Joe Alt isn't either. He would have had to swap sides too. So basically, you're loving one guy, and he would have to switch sides, and the other guy would have to switch sides, and you aren't loving him. So to me, it sounds more like a preference thing than actually a thing about people playing a certain position. So to me, I honestly do like the pick. He has potential, and the thing is, Bill Callahan wanted him here. That was his guy that he wanted. So I think I'm going to listen to a all-time great offensive line coach over thinking, oh, we need to trade back or do anything like that. So I totally get it. I mean, Latham has all the ability. He does need to pick up better in terms of like maybe blitz schemes, things like that as well. But of course, I think over time, and I think just over time being with Bill Callahan, oh, he'll clean that up. And it's like minor, I would say, minor adjustments in terms of technique wise. He'll be able to clean that up.
All right. So, are you ready for a overview? I want your prediction of what you think the actually a way too early prediction of where you think the AFC would end up when we're talking about in January. Who will be on top? Who will be on bottom? And
Mm-hmm.
things that we should expect. So, you mind answering that question?
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind. Who we starting with? What division? Are we starting this AFC South, or are we just doing
We're
like?
just only going to start. We're only going to do AFC South. What do you think? How you think it's going to wrap up when it's all said and done at the end of 2024?
Let's see. That's a good question. I would say I could see the Titans being a. I could see them getting three teams this year. Last year they came very close to getting three teams, just missed it in the last week. But if the Jaguars would have won, then yeah, the Titans and well, not. I'm sorry. If the Jaguars would have won, then the division would have potentially had three teams, right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
Just depending upon if the loss. So this year, I think the Titans make it. I think the Texans make it, and I think the Colts make it. I don't think the Jaguars make it this year. Of course, if you want to put it in an order, I'll say the Texans first, Titans, and then Colts. And it may be a tie between the Titans and the Colts, and then the Jaguars coming in last.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. So as I get ready to wrap here, I want to say thank you for this. But I always end with something that's kind of we're gonna fire some shots here. We're gonna go rapid fire on some questions here. You
Okay,
already
cool.
answered one of them with the hot chicken, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me in your city, which is my city, where is a go-to brunch spot?
Wow, that's a good one. I mean, I hadn't been to brunch in ages.
Mhm.
So, wow, that's a good one. Honestly, I couldn't tell you, man. I haven't been to brunch in ages, to be honest. I got no answers for you on that one.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm just thinking like, the Gulch area is growing up. There's some definitely some places over I think it's called the Southern V. Have you
Oh
heard
yeah,
of
definitely, definitely, definitely heard of that. Oh, there's a
that?
place. There's a place out in I can't remember the name of it, but it's out. It's out off Knowlesville Road. I cannot remember what name of it is right now. Been there
Mm,
before, but it's been a minute. I just cannot remember the name of that place. It's a black owned spot too. I
yeah.
just cannot remember
So
the name of
it's on Nolensville Road. I gotta think about that too.
it.
Because I ain't
Yeah, I
been
just
to
can't
my
remember the
people.
name. I just can't remember the name, and yeah, to be honest, man, I can't remember the last time I've been to a brunch, man. I just can't remember the last time I've been or a
Okay,
brunch spot.
well, I'm gonna name a couple. Sugar High out
Oh
there.
yeah,
People out there.
yeah.
My
Mm-hmm.
folks out there at Sweet 1220 out there, all
Twelve
east.
twelve.
Yeah, that's
I've
a good
I've
little
been there
spot.
before, just not for brunch, but I've been there. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely good.
that's definitely a
Hmm.
good spot there.
Hmm.
Um, Next question here is, what do you do to relax?
Honestly, I probably watch series on TV. Like, I'm big into watching 911, Angela Bassett episodes. I
Mhm.
watch 911 or listen to music a lot. I definitely listen to music a lot. Neo soul music, preferably, probably what I jam with. And let's see what else. Yeah, that's about it right there in that. And then I watch Disney Plus a lot because I do watch a lot of the Disney series, the Marvel series, and currently watching X-Men '97 right now. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Will Tennessee State University have a winning season this year?
Yes, that's without question. I believe they will. They had one last year. Actually, they were actually, I think 6-2 at one point. And the crazy part is, not many people in Nashville knew it, especially some Tennessee State alums.
Okay.
I
Best
actually
bar.
covered them, so I actually get
Okay.
to cover them. So yeah, so I knew that, and I was telling people that, and they were like, "Huh?" I was like, "Yeah, your team is 6-2 right now," and they were
Mhm.
looking at me like confused. I was like, "Yeah, you should know that. You went to school here. You should know that."
That's true. That's facts right there. You went to school. You supposed to know. All right. Best barbecue place in Nashville, Tennessee, or surrounding area.
Ah, barbecue place. Wow. Huh. Barbecue. Man, I eat more seafood than anything.
Mm.
Let's see. Barbecue. Hmm. That's a good question, man. I eat some of
You know,
everything. So that's why I'm like, man, look, I'm trying to think. I've tried food everywhere. So that's why I'm just like in my mind thinking, like, what's a good barbecue place?
that's so
Man,
many, I guess.
to me, I'll give you this. I'll say this. The best barbecue place is at somebody's house. When somebody's making some at their house that knows what they're doing. That is the best
Yeah.
barbecue place. There we go.
Yeah. Well, shout out to my fam at Smokeville 928. He does barbecue and he's all around the city and the surrounding areas. And there's
Mm.
so many others. I don't want to name all of them because I'll be here all day. But there's definitely, yeah, I would because I try a lot of barbecue, but I've been on a diet, so I haven't been really eating like that. But
Mhm.
if I got to, then I know places I need to go, especially someone's house too. If they know how to do barbecue, hey, I'm all
Mhm.
for it. I'm
That you
all
can't
for
you can't lose with somebody that knows to do barbecue. That's why I said that's the winning one for me.
it. Okay. All right. So I want to get into a couple more things here, and I
Mhm.
want you to tell us about you. What should we expect when we tune into your show?
Where you can expect somebody that's going to give you an unbiased opinion. You're going to expect somebody that's going to maybe give you some knowledge on some stuff, or the guest that comes on to give you some insight and knowledge on some stuff that maybe you didn't know. And also, you can expect me to start the show pretty much with every show, pretty much every show, with the get off your chest moment, which basically is me talking about something that's frustrating me, and I got to get off my chest. Like next episode, you never know what I could talk about. So yeah, the next episode, you kind of leaned into it a little bit when we first opened in terms of Houston and Nashville. So kind of addressing the beef. Basically, that's what we're gonna do with the next one. But yeah, so that, and then at the end of the show, of course, learning more about our guest. You're gonna always learn more about the guest in terms of not just sports, but just knowing them in general.
Okay. All right. So my last and final question for you. What is the future of you and in the podcasting space? And the reason why I ask this, because I talk to different podcasters and they all have unique stories on what they want to do with their particular brand. So, what is yours?
Honestly, just continue to grow, continue to be able to exhibit this type of I guess knowledge, and get better in I guess the producing world. So that way I can continue to grow there, continue to show people that I can actually host and produce a show, and maybe who knows,
Mhm.
somebody will bring me on to their network, and we'll be talking about, hey, the days, you remember the days when you were doing this at your house and in your office, and you were bringing in guests and things like that. Man, it seems like so long ago, those type of things. But yeah, I did not go to school for communications, did not go to school to write, didn't do any of that stuff. I actually learned on my own,
Mhm.
learn how to write a lot more on my own, reading a lot of people, reading people like Jamel Hill, Bomani
Mhm.
Jones, like, just people like, Dominic Foxworth, reading a lot of different people across the board and how they wrote. Maurice Patton here in Nashville, Teresa Walker. I mean, Teron Davenport. I mean, you name them, I read them to actually get better and grow over time. So, in that, and then the same thing with podcasting. But Monty Jones, Jamel Hill, Dominique Foxworth. I mean, I pretty much watch all those podcasts and pick up something or learn something that could probably help me with every podcast that I listen to. Teron's podcast as well. You know, him and Chris Sanders jumps on there too. So, you know, definitely a good podcast to listen to as well. But yeah, that's something I want to see just continue to grow. And who knows, I may be a producer for somebody else's podcast. But the thing is, I try to tell people is that with producing a podcast, you're still a part of the show because you're actually controlling the voice of the show, and or at least adding to the voice of the show, which is basically an extension of your voice. So, yeah, that would be, you know, something I could see in my future in terms of that, and maybe growing my brand more. See, you know, something like more of these shirts around here. You know, more of these touring the AFC South shirts.
Oh, I
Like
like that.
that.
I like that.
Yeah,
You
I
designed
got
that
them
right
all.
there?
Not the logo, no. The logo. One of my good friends, David Grubb, he actually designed that. As far as the shirt colors and things like that, yeah, I kind of matched up the shirt colors with all those. But I got all the logos, all the different colors for all the teams in the AFC South, along with the shirts in the background. So like I've got like a white one with a Jaguars logo, a Colts logo, all the different logos on it, and I've got a black one with the actual Jaguars logo on it too, like black with the teal and the green. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, all those different things. So yeah, definitely got some merch out there and stuff like that too. Maybe growing that a little bit more. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about making hats now. I just haven't sat down and kind of figured out how I'm going to make it work.
Okay, perfect, perfect. But again, I want to say definitely thank you for coming on here, being so professional, answering these questions like they were just easy. I mean, you answer these questions like, oh, I got this. It's no problem. I can tell you've been working at your craft. I can tell that you love what you do. And I also can tell, and I believe that this is something that you really want to grow and get it biggest as possible. So I know that for a fact because I can feel it in my heart. So again, I want to say thank you for doing this. And I would love to be able to talk to you again, maybe in another podcast, because I got a lot more information for you. I would love some answer from you.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Just let me know, and thank you again for the kind words. Definitely been trying to do my best to be the foremost contact when it comes to the AFC South. I know there's a lot of people out there, but you know, not very many know all things about all the different teams here. So I'm trying to be that guy.
All right, before I wrap and do my close, I want you to shout out where people can find you on social media.
Okay, well, you can find me on social media. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, I say the artist formerly known as Twitter to pay homage to the guy that is one of the best musicians of all time. That would be Prince. It's at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82 on the artist formerly known as Twitter. On Threads and Instagram, you can find me at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. Touring the AFC South, you can find on YouTube. You can also find on all listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we're there. That's where you can find me on all the social media and all those platforms.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Obviously, this is No Huddle Football News on YouTube. You can also find me on Facebook at No Huddle Football News. My fans know that, the ones that follow. Also, I have a Titan page for Titans only. I want to say thank you all for supporting this weekend with me and coming on, all the new members on there. Definitely Titan fans, look on that particular page, join that page. It's a private page, so it is pretty much troll free. So not toll free, but troll free. Again, thank you so much, Mike, for coming on here. And like
Yes,
I
sir.
tell my audience, until I speak to y'all again, I want y'all to be peaceful and keep living the dream that you want for your life and your family. Again, shout out and peace.